Chapter 2633. Although it was only the 29th, Chen had already started greeting them one by one. Happy New Year, handsome. Happy New Year. I know it's your biggest holiday. I'll bring you a New Year's present next time I go to hell. Oh, do I need to prepare some red envelopes for you? That's for juniors. We're not juniors. Fine. What do I need to prepare for you? Treat me to a meal. However, the handsome guy had other ideas. After thinking for a long while, he said, I know what you need. What do I need? I don't even know myself. Do you? I remember you adopted a dragon, right? Yes. Is the person with the summoning magic array from last time there? Yes, I am. Tell him to summon it. I'll have a demon bring it over. Okay. After hanging up, Chen called Toddy Belster. Toddy, do you have time? Come out. I'll wait for you at the coast. Chen was curious what kind of gift the handsome guy would give him. Toddy Belster appeared on a two-headed dragon. The two-headed dragon, which was close to 10 meters long, looked very cool indeed. It also had some dragon blood, which made it look cool and have a hint of dragon might. Although the almost negligible dragon might had no effect on humans, it was very threatening to other creatures. Of course, Toddy Belster mainly wanted to avoid people. Toddy Belster mainly wanted to avoid being noticed, so she chose this mode of transportation. He didn't think he had the right to show off in front of Chen. President. Toddy Belster greeted respectfully. President, what kind of demon do you want me to summon? I don't know. Just summon one. Toddy was speechless. He didn't know what Chen wanted, or what kind of demon he needed. So after thinking for a while, Toddy summoned a big demon. He didn't know what Chen wanted, or what kind of demon he needed. This demon was at the peak of intermediate demons. However, he still knelt on one knee before Chen. Greetings, sir. What did that person ask you to bring me? That lord asked me to bring you this. The demon took out an exquisite box and handed it to Jen. Okay, this is for you. Chen tossed a high-quality demonic crystal to the demon. The great demon's face lit up and he bowed again. Thank you for your kindness. This lowly one will take his leave. Jen opened the box. Inside was a flawless white pearl. Jen was a little surprised. The quality of this pearl seemed to be extraordinary. However, what was the use of this thing? He had heard from the handsome guy that this thing was used by abitos. However, the moment he opened the box, at the same time, it exuded a terrifying dragon's might. Great Demon and Toddy Belster both looked terrified. The oppressive feeling emitted by the dragon might made them almost unable to stand still. Jen glanced at Toddy Belster and the demon. He immediately closed the box, and the firebird suddenly disappeared. Toddy Belster and the archdevil were relieved. The dragon might just now almost made him collapse. Toady, take him back. Toddy Belster let out a long sigh and recalled the great demon. President. That's. A friend sent it to me from hell. Toddy Belster gulped. A friend from hell? Jen had too many friends. Okay, that's all. Just as Toddy was about to leave, Jen suddenly stopped him. Oh, Happy New Year, Jen said. Toddy Belster was a pure American. He stared at Chen dumbfounded. New Year. Both Christmas and New Year's had passed almost 2 months ago. Happy New Year at this time? Toddy Belster left with a face full of questions. Jen called the handsome guy again. Did you get it? Yes. It's a Dragon Ball, right? It should be of a high level. It's a Dragon King level Dragon Ball, the handsome guy said. But it's different from the ones in the human world. What's different? The dragon race also has a bottleneck. When the dragon race in hell faces the end of their lives, they will leave their strength and knowledge in the Dragon Ball for their descendants. When their descendants encounter a bottleneck, they will be able to quickly break through the bottleneck. This is the inheritance of the dragon. However, in the human world, the inheritance of the dragon race has long been severed. Therefore, when the dragon race encounters their own bottleneck, they will be forever locked in this realm. Most of the time, they can only rely on their race's innate talent to grow, and will not be able to break through. In other words, this Dragon Ball is for abitos to use when he reaches his limit? Really? More accurately, it's for the little guy to be half a Dragon King, before giving him the Legacy Dragon Ball. That's too far away, Jen said. Plus, His parents should be prepared. Obito's adulthood would take at least a few hundred years. Jen might not even see Obito's become an adult. It would take thousands of years, or even longer for him, to reach the level of a Dragon King. His parents can't prepare for it, unless his mother mutilates herself and leaves him the legacy Dragon Ball. Is Iris a Dragon King now? Isn't she a great lord? A great lord is a Dragon King. The handsome guy rolled his eyes. You don't think a Dragon King is the same as a secondary Demon King, do you? Isn't it? Dragons and demons have different levels. Fine, looks like I got it wrong. But if Iris can grow to the level of a Dragon King, Obito's can too. His bloodline isn't any weaker than his mother's. From the moment he was born, his appearance determined that he's a dragon. The dragon bloodline one. Even if he has the bloodline of a glutton, it'll only be useful in battle. He can only grow like a dragon. The bloodline of a glutton won't give him any advantage. How do I use this Dragon Ball? Hang a pendant on him. Put a layer of thorium on the surface of the Dragon Ball to block the dragon might. Then peel it off bit by bit, so he can adapt to the dragon might. When the time is right, eat the Dragon Ball. Chapter 2634. Is it only effective for the first time? Yes, but if you can get more legacy Dragon Balls for him, the effect will be better. More accurately, the upper limit will be higher. This is the only chance to increase the upper limit of the dragon race. In other words, there's no upper limit for the first use. No. The more the better. The more the better. There won't be any conflicts. Nope. Can you buy legacy Dragon Balls with wealth in hell? As long as you're rich enough, there's nothing you can't buy in hell. Of course you have enough wealth. That's expensive, right? It can create a great lord. Do you think it's expensive? Fine, pretend I didn't say anything. Chen thought about it and said, there should be in the human world too, right? I remember there's a Dragon King in the human world. Even if there's a Dragon King, it doesn't mean there's an inheritance. As far as I know, the dragon inheritance in the human world has been cut off long ago. When the ancestral dragon exiled the Hyba dragons, he cut off their inheritance from the root. He must have exiled many Hyba dragons back then, right? Can he check them one by one? He directly cut off the roots. All the members of the Hyba dragon tribe, who were qualified to inherit the inheritance, were all killed by him. Those who were exiled were almost all young dragons, and a curse was placed in their bloodlines. No member of the Hyba dragon tribe was allowed to inherit the inheritance, unless a more powerful being than the ancestral dragon appeared in the Hyba dragon tribe one day. The curse would follow the descendants of the Hyba dragon tribe forever. Chen had some hope at first. Perhaps he could find it in the human world and gain something. But the handsome guy's words made Chen completely give up. There were legacy Dragon Balls in hell. However, the value of each inheritance Dragon Ball was 10 times greater than the wealth of a greater demon overlord. Imagine a demon lord at the level of Beelzebub Zophie. The wealth accumulated over thousands of years was only enough to buy 1/10 of one legacy Dragon Ball. After hanging up, Chen went straight to Ruan Fazben's house. Ruan Fazben had recently bought a house outside. He didn't have to report to the supernatural organization every day, so most of the time, he didn't go out at all. However, his house was also very remote, mainly because he usually had to do some experiments. If he chose to do it in the downtown area, it would be more inconvenient. In fact, many members of the supernatural organization chose to buy houses outside. Ruan Faxi was not the first. This was Chen's first visit to Ruan Faxai's main family. His family wasn't small. Chen walked to the door and pressed the doorbell. Although he could go in directly, Chen didn't want to be rude. Who? Ruan Faxben's tone was rather impolite. Me. Cacho. 1/10 of a second later, the door opened. He wasn't mocking him. Judging from Ruan Faxi's pained expression, he must have suffered a great loss. Don't be so pained. I'll get you some good stuff later as compensation. Ruan Faxi instantly beamed. Chen even suspected that he was trying to trick him with that expression. Chen picked up a gold-eating hyena. It didn't struggle at all. Instead, it gurgled and burrowed into Chen's arms. There was some dust on the gold-eating hyena, but it wasn't dirty. It was also very fleshy. It had the potential to be a cute pet. Chen wondered if she should get some for the kids to play with at home. Do these little pigs poop everywhere? Suddenly, Varian's pupils constricted. He glared at the long-haired man. The dragon race. That man was also a dragon. Varian Marks immediately drew her weapon. Her weapons were a pair of silver spears, engraved with many cryptic runes. Although Zevra and Varian Max didn't get along, but at this moment her choice was the same. Varian's enemy was her enemy. Don't be impulsive. A conflict here won't do you any good, the long-haired man said with a smile. However, his words didn't make the Dragon Slayer team lower their guard and weapons. At this moment, a tall man beside the long-haired man said, "Master, let me teach these little guys a lesson." The man was dressed like an ancient gladiator. He wore chainmail, but his arms were bare. He carried a large sword on his back. Varian's pupils contracted when she saw the dragon tattoo on the man's arm. "Traitor!" Varian snorted in a low voice. The tall man grinned. "Little guy, if you want to get to the root of the matter, you're the traitors." Randolph stepped down. The long-haired man waved his hand. The tall man called Randolph retreated respectfully. "Dragon Slayer, I'm not your target. I'm not an evil dragon either. Our goal should be the same. Every dragon is a good thing," Varian said coldly. "All right, every dragon slayer is indeed an extreme lunatic." The long-haired man sighed. "Even if I'm an evil dragon, you shouldn't have a conflict with me here. You have no chance of winning." Dragon slayers didn't rely on their bravery to slay dragons. In a direct battle, no dragon slayer could defeat a dragon. Dragons were dragons because they were so powerful that no one could defeat them. Even though it was a dragon in human form, most spiritualists still stopped in their tracks. No, this underground labyrinth uses a large amount of thorium. Thorium can greatly suppress dragons. You might not even be able to use half of your strength here. And you can't even revert to your dragon form here. So we have a chance of winning, Varian Max said coldly. The long-haired man laughed. "Yes, indeed. I can't even use half of my strength here. But if you want to defeat me, you must first understand my upper limit. Even if I can only use 1/10 of my strength, I'm still..." Whoosh! Instantly the long-haired man's eyes lit up. Along with his sharp gaze was a terrifying dragon aura. The Dragon Slayer team instantly felt a terrifying pressure. Varian clenched her teeth, but her legs couldn't help but tremble. Some of the weak-willed members of the Dragon Slayer team behind her had even collapsed to the ground. For example, Jane Fenkel. She didn't have any experience fighting against Dragon Aura. She was already curled up on the ground, shivering. "You can't even defeat my 2 dogs now," the long-haired man said with a smile. "You should be glad that I didn't plan to kill you." The long-haired man retracted his Dragon Aura. But at that moment, Varian fired. A magic bullet was shot at the long-haired man. If the draconic might's pressure is 100, then a person approaching the range of the draconic might will completely bear the pressure of 100. But if it's 100 people, then these 100 people can share the pressure of 100. Although I don't know what the limit of the draconic might of the ancient Dragon Ball is. If it's divided into 1,000th, then even Haber Timur Haber can easily bear it. So what news did Haber Timur Haber spread to attract so many spiritualists? It's a very stupid lie, but it's very effective. He said that the ancient dragon clan's treasures are hidden here. And he even gave out many self-made treasure maps. Those stupid humans actually believed it to be true, and even treated it as a secret, keeping it a secret. Arthur Alberta Haber snorted and shook his head. "If it were me, I would make this lie more perfect, instead of only deceiving idiots." However, at this moment, no one was in the mood to argue with Arthur Alberta Haber. Even Varian Marks only wanted to get to the lowest floor, as soon as possible at this moment, to prevent Haber Timur Haber from obtaining the ancient Dragon Ball. So even if Arthur Alberta Haber and his men were by his side, he would not be able to do anything. Varian Marks didn't have any more objections, although she didn't have a good impression of Arthur Alberta Haber. But the threat of Haber Timur Haber was obviously greater. Moreover, in order to stop Haber Timur Haber, he had to use Arthur Alberta Haber's power at this moment. So this time, she didn't refuse Arthur Alberta Haber's company along the way. But along the way, She was still cold to Arthur Alberta Haber. It was not a peaceful journey either. From time to time, a team would pop up and cause trouble for them. Arthur Alberta Haber basically only needed to send 2 vicious dogs to kill those people until they pissed their pants. If they encountered a slightly stronger spiritualist team, they would exclude their subordinates. Like the Dragon Slayer squad, they were all mixed-blood dragons. But they called themselves half-dragons. Although they had the same bloodline, their fighting style was completely different from the Dragon Slayer squad. Most of the Dragon Slayers were used to relying on equipment. On the other hand, half-dragons were used to using their own bloodline. They transformed into half-dragons without any scruples, and even directly transformed into small dragons. Coupled with their large weapons, the combat power they displayed was quite amazing. Although the Dragon Slayer squad kept saying that they disdained these half-dragons. But when they saw their combat power, their eyes still showed splendor. Dragon Slayers could also transform into half-dragons, but most of the characteristics of dragon transformation were very few. The more dragon characteristics, the stronger their combat power was, and vice versa the weaker they were. They also knew that Haber Timur Haber was their main target. Anything that could stop Haber Timur Haber's goal was acceptable. The 2 Dragon Slayer teams had never worked together before, but their actions were like close comrades in arms. A Dragon Slayer held a cannon and fired a shot at a demi-dragon under Haber Timur Haber's command. But what came out of the cannon was not a cannonball but a net. The tall demi-dragon immediately wanted to tear off the net on his body. But this net was tougher than he had imagined. It couldn't be torn for a while. Immediately afterward, a few other Dragon Slayers held automatic rifles in their hands and fired at the Draconians. But at this moment, another demi-dragon rushed toward the Dragon Slayer. Suddenly, a tall figure blocked in front of the Dragon Slayer team. The one who attacked was a demi-dragon under Arthur Alberta Haber's command. Varian remembered that this demi-dragon was called Randolph. It was a demi-dragon against a demi-dragon, but Randolph's strength was obviously stronger than his opponent by more than 1 level. With a move, the big sword swept again, and the demi-dragon was directly swept away. But Randolph didn't notice that a figure quietly approached him from the chaotic battlefield. Taking advantage of Randolph's fight with the enemy, the figure suddenly flew directly to Randolph's back, at an extremely fast speed. Although it was not big, it was extremely fierce. Its claws firmly grasped Randolph's back. At the same time, black flames ignited on its palms. The black flames followed the figure's claws and penetrated into the skin on Randolph's back that was scratched. Ouch! Randolph screamed in pain. Bang bang! Zevra was quick to react. She fired a few shots at the figure behind Randolph. The figure was shot down. Big brother! Jane Finkel was shocked. She had already recognized that the figure who attacked Randolph was her big brother. Caesar Marx was 80% dragonized at the moment. Although he was not much bigger, he already had dragon horns, tail, and wings. Zevra still wanted to pursue, but Jane Finkel opened her arms in front of Zevra. Zevra didn't care about Jane Finkel at all. She directly reached out and swept Jane Finkel's face away. She fired several shots at Caesar Marx on the ground. However, Caesar Marx went to the ground and dodged a few times. He easily avoided Zevra's attack and disappeared into the chaotic crowd in the blink of an eye. Zevra looked at Jane Finkel angrily and pointed the muzzle directly at her head. If there's a next time, I will kill you first, then your deformed father and brother. Jane Finkel's face turned pale. She looked at Varian Marx for help. However, Varian's expression became even colder. If there's a next time, I will kill you first without Zevra doing anything. Hee, don't be so serious. Arthur Alberta Haber smiled and smoothed things over. She's just an ordinary person to us, so it's understandable. Chapter 2639. Arthur Alberta Haber glanced at Randolph. Then he pricked his finger, and a drop of dragon blood seeped out of the wound. Arthur Alberta Haber flicked his finger lightly, and the dragon blood landed on Randolph's body. The terrible burn on Randolph's back gradually recovered. Randolph's pained expression also gradually eased. My lord, I want to kill that guy. Randolph was straightforward. How could he stand such an insult? He was ambushed by the opponent, and then he escaped. For him, it was a great humiliation. In the chaotic battlefield between the spiritualists and the magic puppets, he could vaguely see Caesar Marks wandering around in it. He had been lying on the ground, crawling like a lizard. He was fast and agile, and he was low. It was difficult for the spiritualists in the battle to notice his existence. He would ambush one or two people from time to time, and every time he succeeded, the more Randolph watched, the angrier he got. 1/3 of the thousands of spiritualists on the battlefield had died. The scene was a little out of control. First, it was the endless magic puppets. Second, it was the trouble caused by Hobber Timor Haber's men. Originally, the situation was a little difficult, but because of their disturbance, it had completely developed in the direction of defeat. Every ascending dragon magic implement that was snatched would be sent to Hobber Timor Haber. And those ascending dragon magic implements were in front of Hobber Timor Haber. Hobber Timor Haber didn't touch them. They were floating around an irregularly shaped thing in Hobber Timor Haber's hands. That irregularly shaped thing should also be a magic implement, but it didn't have any beauty. Heart of Sodium, Arthur Alberta Haber said with a frown. What is it? Varian asked in confusion. Artifact. It can be used as the core of all magic tools, and then combine several or dozens of completely unrelated magic tools together to form a brand new magic tool and improve it to a brand new quality. But Ascending Dragon Magic Implement isn't a magic tool, right? Ascending Dragon Magic Implement is a magic tool, but it's aimed at dragons. It's still lethal to others, but it can restrain dragons. At this time, even Arthur Alberta Haber could not sit still. He didn't care about the scattered ascending dragon magic tools. They were like a group of ants that posed almost zero threat to him. But if this group of ants were divided into a whole group, then he could no longer sit back and do nothing. Not long after, the Draconic Ascending Magic Tool was assembled. The Draconic Ritual Implement was like Hobber Timor Haber's extra prosthetic limb. It was attached to his back, but the limb was much larger than his body. It was like an ordinary human being had a giant's arm transplanted onto his body. These people are probably the descendants of the ancient Tyrok, Zephyr said. What's ancient Tillock? Arthur Alberta Haber asked, puzzled. Although they had been influenced by what they had seen and heard in the past few days, they also knew that they had dragon blood in them. But in the end, they had never seen a real dragon. At most, they could only look at the dragon form of a demi-dragon. However, the dragon form of a demi-dragon was simply two different concepts compared to the real dragon that Arthur Alberta Haber had transformed into. Arthur Alberta Haber had to use his draconic might to contend with the draconic might of the ancient Dragon Ball. However, his draconic might was still so insignificant in front of the draconic might emitted by the ancient Dragon Ball. Every step he took was full of difficulty, like a person trapped in a swamp. That kind of pain and helplessness made him unable to continue, and this was still under the condition that the draconic might of the ancient Dragon Ball had been shared. The former owner of this ancient Dragon Ball was called Arilak Haber, a dragon that was even more powerful than the current Dragon King. He was once a great lord who dominated a region. Later on, he also became a member of the resistance against the progenitor dragon army. However, the resistance failed. Many of his clansmen were slaughtered. He was also one of them. However, he was luckier than his companions. He had his own children and his own inheritance. He didn't come to the human world, but his children brought his inheritance Dragon Pearl to this world. This was the only inheritance Dragon Pearl of the Haber Dragon clan that was left before the progenitor dragon launched the bloodline prohibition. But unfortunately, his descendants did not become the leaders of the dragon clan after coming to the human world. At that time, the dragon clan that was exiled to the human world also had their own factions. One of the branches became the leader of the exiled. Furthermore, he became the Dragon King without borrowing the ancient Dragon Ball. The Dragon King, the common ancestor of Hobber Timor Haber and Arthur Alberta Haber, directly hid this ancient Dragon Ball. On the one hand, he didn't want a second Dragon King to appear, causing internal strife in the Dragon clan, and also to avoid other Dragon clans fighting for power with him. But he didn't want to completely destroy this ancient Dragon Ball. when his descendants couldn't become the Dragon King, or when there was a great crisis in the Dragon Clan. In that case, this ancient dragon pearl would play a crucial role. And this secret was only known by the Dragon Kings of the past. But now, this ancient Dragon Ball didn't play a key role. Haber Timur Haber became the beneficiary of the ancient Dragon Ball. The oppressive feeling on Arthur Alberta Haber's body suddenly disappeared. He didn't have any joy, but his face changed dramatically. Arthur Alberta Haber immediately turned around. Go! Leave here! Haber Timur Haber felt that the ancient Dragon Ball was constantly releasing a terrifying power. And this power was becoming a part of him. It was merging into his Dragon Ball. Haber Timur Haber's originally gray dragon scales were now gradually covered with red lines. His body grew larger, and his aura became even more terrifying. Haber Timur Haber glanced at Arthur Alberta Haber, and a sneer appeared on his face. My dear brother, do you want to escape? Arthur Alberta Haber was terrified. From Haber Timur Haber's body, a brand new dragon aura had begun to spread. It was exactly the same dragon aura as the ancient Dragon Ball, but it was more autonomous than the ancient Dragon Ball. Father has always regarded you as the heir, and now it has been proven that I am the most suitable heir. Haber Timur Haber said proudly. But now, I don't need to prove anything to him. The next time I return to Dragon Island, I will seize his royal power with my own hands. Chapter 2641. Arthur Alberta Haber finally saved 7 or 8 people. In fact, he only wanted to save Varian Marks, and the others were just saved in passing. Below was a huge karst cave, and the space was larger than the cube above. Thousands of meters below, there was a huge magma lake. Arthur Alberta Haber threw the people he saved on his back, and found a rock floating on the magma lake to stop. At this moment, the terrifying grayish-red figure was descending from above unhurriedly. Arthur Alberta Haber showed fear at this moment. Varian Marks looked at the huge body that protected her under her body with some confusion. She had never been protected by a dragon. In the past, she would only kill a dragon, and the giant dragon she encountered would only kill her. No dragon would protect her voluntarily. However, at the moment when she fell, she clearly felt that Arthur Alberta Haber was looking at her. Jane Fankel was also one of the people who were saved. At this moment she was still in shock. At that moment, she almost thought she was going to die. She saw with her own eyes that many people fell into the magma lake from above. They didn't even have the chance to scream. At this moment, Refra suddenly found that the interference of the phone had disappeared. The collapse above seemed to have destroyed the source of interference. Haber Timur Haber unscrupulously released a terrible dragon's power. Arthur Alberta Haber trembled under Haber Timur Haber's dragon's power. It was too powerful. Haber Timur Haber didn't even need to make a move directly. Even just relying on the dragon's power could kill him. Is this still the pride of being regarded as a genius by father? Haber Timur Haber looked at Arthur Alberta Haber mockingly. The current you is just like an ant in front of me. As long as I think about it, you will be crushed by me. From now on, I will destroy and tear all your pride and confidence little by little. Arthur Alberta Haber lowered his body, but he still tried to raise his head. He opened his mouth and let out 2 dragon roars. Haber Timur Haber transformed into human form. Under absolute power. Even if he was only in human form, he was still countless times stronger than Arthur Alberta Haber. Let me show you my new magic. Haber Timur Haber raised his right arm. Just then, lava tentacles suddenly stretched out from the lava lake around them. The lava tentacles wrapped around Arthur Alberta Haber's wings. After the silver dragon scales were burned by the lava, they were charred black. Arthur Alberta Haber couldn't even avoid Haber Timur Haber's Firebird. This was the difference between Dragon Kings and those below them. Even numbers couldn't make up for such a huge gap. First, your daughter. Haber Timur Haber looked at Varian Max. Varian's expression changed. Varian, how long has it been since we last saw each other? Haber Timur Haber grinned, and looked at Varian Marks mockingly. Arthur Alberta Haber growled. Their strength is nothing to you. Chapter 2642. I never waste any bit of power. That's my strength. Haber Timur Haber smiled. He watched as the 2 balls of blood one big and one small, came in front of him. He gently caught them with his palm and absorbed them. He liked this feeling very much. He had even become addicted to it. However, it was not easy to cultivate descendants. It was too troublesome for dragons to reproduce. He had spent most of his time breeding, or on the way to breeding. But there were not many who really succeeded. Jane Fankel looked at her two closest relatives who had fallen into the magma. She had collapsed and knelt on the ground. Haber Haber looked at Jane Fankel and grabbed at her through the air. At that moment, Zephyr made her move. Zephyr pulled Jane Fankel over and threw out a dragon blood grenade at the same time. This dragon blood grenade was made from the blood of dragons. In a sense, the dragon blood grenade was a magic weapon of the dragon ascension. Of course, it was more like a modern thermal weapon. After all, the principle was the same. It was just that dragon blood was added. And the dragon blood added to the dragon blood grenade was actually not real dragon blood. After all, that thing was very precious. Even the Dragon Slayer organization would not use dragon blood to make a high-consumption dragon blood grenade. Haber Haber stood where he was. He could completely avoid the dragon blood grenade, but he had no intention of doing so at all. The dragon blood grenade exploded on his body. In an instant, the dragon blood grenade exploded with a crimson flame impact and instantly shrank. A large pit several meters deep was left on the ground. However, after the explosion of the dragon blood grenade subsided, Haber Haber stood there unscathed. Haber Haber looked at Zephyr with a playful gaze. Do you like to play like this? Then let's play. Haber Haber took a piece of dragon scale from his arm and threw it away. The dragon scale turned into a dragon beast. Arthur Alberta Haber's expression changed. What kind of magic was this? Summoning magic? No, this dragon beast had the aura of Haber Haber. It was not summoned from other places. It was a part of Haber Haber. But how did he do it? Turning a scale into a dragon? Generally speaking, the offspring of the dragon clan and other species were called half-dragons, which meant that they were the descendants of the dragon clan. The half-dragon would then interbreed with other creatures to give birth to draconic beasts. Most of the dragons were very powerful, although it was definitely not comparable to the dragon race. But compared to the vast majority of creatures, dragon beasts were already invincible. Jevra did not think so. She took a step forward, as if she was going to face the dragon alone. Varian Marks pulled Jevra back. Don't worry, Zephyr said calmly. Varian looked at the Cyclops and then at Zephyr. In the end, she could only say one word. Be careful. Zephyr bent over and drew out her pair of daggers. The daggers were hidden in her boots. Throughout the journey, Zephyr had never used it. Haber Haber looked like he was watching a show. At first, Jevra's footsteps were just a stroll, but gradually, her speed became faster and faster, and in the end, it became a sprint. The daggers were placed in front of her and behind her. The dragon suddenly leaped forward, opening its mouth and pouncing towards Zevra. Zevra's figure changed. She leaped high into the air, somersaulted in midair, and stabbed the daggers in her hands down. Ding! Sparks flew, but the dragon was unharmed. Zevra's reaction was also very fast. After her attack failed, she immediately retreated. However, the dragon chased after her and swung its tail. Be careful! Varian Marks exclaimed. Zevra was in a dangerous situation. If the dragon swung its tail hit her, she would probably be smashed into meat paste. Just then, Zevra crossed the two daggers in front of her. When the dragon swung its tail, Zevra used the flexibility of the daggers to retreat even faster. Zevra's feet kept retreating on the ground, and she finally stopped. What amazing combat skills! She actually withstood such a heavy attack. Varian exclaimed in astonishment. What she did not know was that Zafra had only recently developed her fighting skills. She was able to develop this combat skill because she had an imaginary enemy, and this imaginary enemy was Chen Zhao. The development process was even smoother than she had imagined. Together with this pair of specially made weapons, Zevra could easily defeat an enemy. Although it was her first time using this combat skill with the daggers, it was shockingly effective. Zevra moved her shoulders. Her muscles and bones started to relax. Haber Haber raised an eyebrow. It seemed that the little girl did not use her full strength. She seemed to still have some leeway. Haber Timur Haber did not intend to interfere. He watched Zevra's next performance with interest. This time the dragon attacked first. Zevra moved and charged at the dragon. Amidst the lightning and thunder, the dragon's right eye was suddenly pierced by Zevra. Zevra, on the other hand, avoided the dragon's huge body in the blink of an eye. The dragon howled in pain. It turned around and spat a mouthful of saliva at Zevra. However, this attack could not even reach Zevra's shadow. Zevra flashed again and appeared under the dragon's abdomen. The dragon was still wondering where Zevra had gone. Zevra's two swords had already cut open the dragon's abdomen. The battle ended with Zevra's easy victory. Clap, clap, clap. Haber Timur Haber clapped his hands. Beautiful, what a beautiful combat skill. There's a dragon called the Combat Master among the dragons. I suspect that you're his descendant. Zevra wiped away the blood on her sword and pointed at Haber Timur Haber. Haber Timur Haber looked at Zevra. You don't think that your skill will work on me, do you? Zevra calmly looked at Haber Timur Haber and shook her head. If that's the case, why are you pointing your sword at me? Are you going to fight me to the death? Zevra shook her head again. I just want to tell you that my boss is here. Your boss? Who's your boss? The leader of the Dragon Slayer organization? Haber Timur Haber asked in confusion. He was not the only one confused. The others were confused as well. Varian's face was full of greetings. The leader of the Dragon Slayer organization? That guy did not seem powerful and was very short. Would he dare to come? Chapter 2643. Thud, thud, thud. The loud sound came from above. It was like a pile driver pounding the ground. At first it was a bit light, but the next time, it would be heavier, heavier, heavier. More rocks began to fall from above. It was as if a pile driver was really working on it. Bang! Suddenly, a hole appeared in the cubic ceiling above. Then a figure descended from the sky. Everyone looked at the figure and realized that it was an Asian man holding a round pig. Seeing Chen Zhao, Jane Fankel had a strange expression. Wasn't that Chen Zhao? To be honest, her appearance here was largely related to Chen Zhao. Boss, Zephyr called. Everyone froze. Boss? Was this guy Zephyr's boss? Chen Zhao nodded and scanned the scene. Which side is the enemy? Which side is on our side? Chen Zhao asked. Or are both dragons enemies? Zephyr glanced at Arthur Alberta Haber and said, he's on our side, at least for now. So this guy is the enemy? Chen Zhao pointed at Haber and asked, you're the leader of the dragons. I'll soon become the leader of the dragons, Haber said confidently. Haber Timur Haber said confidently, human, you better show me some respect. That way, I will forgive your sins after you die. Sorry, Chen Zhao said relaxing. I've killed a lot of dragons, so it's hard for me to show some respect to an unfamiliar dragon. Haber Timur Haber's face darkened, and his finger pressed down. Instantly, a terrifying dragon's might pressed down on Chen Zhao's face. A huge pit instantly appeared in the ground around Chen Zhao. However, Chen Zhao hovered in place. Even the round pig in Chen Zhao's arms was unharmed, let alone Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao also raised his finger and pointed at Haber Timur Haber. A small black ball appeared before his finger. Pop! Haber Timur Haber's entire body was sent flying, crashing into a rock wall in the distance. It really isn't the Dragon King, Chen Zhao muttered to himself. I heard that the Dragon King is powerful, but this guy is too weak. However, Chen Zhao's words made everyone speechless. Weak. This guy said that Haber Timur Haber was weak? In what way did he know that Haber Timur Haber was weak? Jane Fankel did not expect Chen Zhao to be so powerful. Don't be careless, human. Your attack has no effect on him. Arthur Alberta Haber said seriously. Silver Dragon, are you an ice elemental? That doesn't seem to be the case. I once killed an ice-type silver dragon, but I didn't feel any chill from your body. Are you interested in becoming part of my collection? Arthur Alberta Haber's face darkened. He was speechless at the human in front of him. He suddenly felt that it would be better if Haber Timur Haber killed this guy. Roar! Haber Timur Haber jumped up from the rubble and instantly transformed into his dragon form. His body was close to 1,000 meters long, and he was covered in grayish-red patterns. There were also many pairs of dragon horns on his head, making him look even more sinister and terrifying. Arthur Alberta Haber's expression changed again. Both Haber Timur Haber's power and body were becoming stronger. I'm going to kill you. Human I want. Kill. You. Dozens of magic formations of various sizes appeared around Haber Timur Haber. All of them pointed at Chen Zhao. Every single one of the magic arrays was brewing a terrifying spell. Everyone's nerves were tense to the extreme. Some even blamed Chen Zhao. After all, Chen Zhao had only appeared for a minute. He had successfully angered Haber Timur Haber. This also made them face a more serious and dangerous situation. Chen Zhao stood where he was and looked at Haber Timur Haber in the distance. You're weaker than I thought. Very well, then I'll show you my puny strength. Go to hell. In an instant, all the magic formations burst out with terrifying spells. Dozens of terrifying magic beams blasted at Chen Zhao. However, when the magic beams were within 1,000 meters of Chen Zhao, they began to visibly weaken. When they were within 100 meters, they had weakened to only 1/10 of their original power. When they reached Chen Zhao, they were no more powerful than inferior fireball. Chen Zhao laughed. Are you kidding me? Or did you not eat breakfast? Haber Timur Haber flew into a rage. His power had increased tenfold, but his IQ seemed to have increased in the opposite direction. Or rather, he had inflated. Using his huge body, Haber Timur Haber pounced at Chen Zhao. In everyone's eyes, he was like a flying mountain. Haber Timur Haber's body might be 1,000,000 tons. The oppressive feeling brought about by the overwhelming aura made it difficult for everyone to breathe. At this time, Chen Zhao also moved. Moreover, Chen Zhao was much faster than Haber Timur Haber. Everyone felt their vision blur. Then they realized that Chen Zhao had disappeared. The next moment, they saw Haber Timur Haber's lower abdomen cave in. His huge body fell down too, his back smashing heavily into the ground. Then, everyone saw Chen Zhao appear above Haber Timur Haber. Haber Timur Haber was shocked. He wanted to climb up, but he realized that he was controlled by a terrifying power. Without hesitation, Haber Timur Haber spat out a mouthful of dragon breath at Chen Zhao. The terrifying dragon breath traveled thousands of meters in an instant and swallowed Chen Zhao. But the power controlling him didn't weaken. Roar! Haber Timur Haber screamed in pain. Everyone saw that Haber Timur Haber's left forelimb had been strangely torn off. Chen Zhao stood there unharmed. He was still holding Roundy with one hand. Right now, Chen Zhao was looking down at Haber Timur Haber with a condescending gaze. Among my many opponents, you should be the weakest. You seem to be very unfamiliar with your power. Everyone was speechless. Haber Timur Haber? The weakest. Chapter 2644. This wasn't because Chen Zhao was being arrogant. Or perhaps it was because he was humiliating Haber Timur Haber. He truly felt that Haber Timur Haber was very weak. Haber Timur Haber's aura wasn't weak. At the very least, he was considered average among the great lords Shi Feng had fought before. However, the strength he'd displayed was definitely an insult to Chen Zhao's power level. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Kill you. Haber Timur Haber roared crazily. He'd obtained supreme power, but on the same day, he'd lost a claw. Terrifying magic power brewed inside Haber Timur Haber's body. I told you, you're too immature when it comes to using power. You shouldn't have brewed your magic power in front of the enemy. Chen Zhao waved his hand. Thousands of black balls appeared around him. Chen Zhao didn't even have to use his full strength. The thousands of black balls were like a bullet storm. They shot directly at Haber Timur Haber at an astonishing speed. These black balls weighed tens of thousands of tons. One could imagine how terrifying the power would be under such high-speed shooting. Thousands of small black balls shot out crazily. Haber Timur Haber actually didn't die. Chen Zhao was amazed by Haber Timur's tenacious vitality. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was this still the insufferably arrogant Haber Timur Haber? At the moment, Haber Timur Haber was covered in wounds. Haber Timur Haber didn't even have a chance to fight back. Chen Zhao still held Roundy in one hand and controlled the battle with the other. He controlled the entire situation. But for Zephyra, she only had one feeling. Chen Zhao had become stronger again. Haber Timur Haber didn't want to wait for death like this. He unleashed his dragon's might at full power. Chen Zhao's hand paused. All the black balls lost control and fell. Next, Haber Timur Haber opened his bloody mouth and bit at Chen Zhao in the sky. However, Chen Zhao dodged Haber Timur's attack at an even faster speed. Chen Zhao's lips curled into a smile. You're more like it now. Right now, Haber Timur's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Chen Zhao with hatred. His strength increased again, and anger and madness caused his fusion with the ancient Dragon Ball to become even more radical. This was a good thing, but also not a good thing. The surrounding magma began to boil and gather towards Haber Timur Haber. A magma dragon claw grew out of Haber Timur Haber's severed limb. I'm no longer afraid of you. Haber Timur Haber moved his magma dragon claws. Chen Zhao smiled. You still have a lot of room for improvement. I am already strong enough. The lava was repairing his body. Even his uninjured skin was covered in lava. This was the power of a domain, completely different from the domains of the past. To be precise, his domain was replaced by this scorching hot domain. Not enough. Chen Zhao moved again. A punch pierced through Haber Timur's magma body. Haber Timur's huge body flew backward at a shocking speed. When it fell into the magma, it set off huge waves. The lava covering his skin didn't protect him at all. Even against Chen Zhao, the lava didn't have the desired effect. Suddenly, the lava lake exploded, and a terrifying lava dragon appeared in front of everyone. The dragon's upper body was already 3,000 meters long. Its entire body was probably over 5,000 meters long. Before the lava dragon, Chen Zhao was as small as an ant. This was definitely the largest enemy Chen Zhao had ever faced. There was no other. Tremble under my power. Haber Timur Haber roared. Everyone was completely shocked by the scene before them. Even Arthur Alberta Haber was no exception. Was there really anything in the world that could fight against such power? Chen Zhao was still calm. He turned to look at Refra. Help me hold it. With his hands free, Chen Zhao could finally put his heart and soul into the battle. To be precise, Chen Zhao had thought of a good idea. An idea that Chen Zhao had rejected. Zhang Ting had mentioned it to Chen Zhao before. However, Chen Zhao had rejected it back then. Chen Zhao didn't walk fast. He strolled toward the magma dragon. Haber Timur Haber seemed to think that he would definitely win. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. While he was displaying his power, he was also enjoying it. Such a powerful force brought him an unprecedented pleasure. Feel my anger. Haber Timur Haber raised his huge claw and slapped at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised 2 fingers and swiped at the air. In an instant, Haber Timur Haber's claws separated from his huge body once again. The claw turned into lava and scattered, but Haber Timur didn't care. This was because there was enough lava here for him to repair his damaged body. Chen Zhao was just trying out a small part of it. He just wanted to see how effective this move was. He had to admit that this move was indeed quite effective. At least it was effective against a newbie. Actually, this move was a modified version of Neutron Star. Originally, it compressed air into an extremely small volume. This move, which Chen Zhao had named Scalpel, was essentially Neutron Star. It was just that the shape was changed to that of a knife. Because it was mainly made of air, the knife couldn't be seen. Chen Zhao waved his hand lightly, and the magma dragon's head was cut off. However, it still didn't hurt Haber Timur Haber at all. The magma dragon's head grew back. It's useless. I'm immortal now. You can't kill me. Chen Zhao couldn't help but laugh out loud. In the past, people had said that they were immortal before Chen Zhao. They'd all be ravaged by Chen Zhao, and then slapped into the wall. Now there were people saying such things. Especially people at Haber Timur Haber's level. Was he really a newbie? He actually dared to say such a stupid lie in such a solemn manner. What are you laughing at? Haber Timur Haber was like a mouse whose tail had been stepped on. He questioned Chen Zhao angrily. Next time you make up a lie like this, you have to hide your real body first. Don't hide under my feet, and use a fake body made by magic to fool me. Divine King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2645. Haber Timur Haber's performance was indeed extremely stupid. He thought that by hiding in the lava, he could avoid Chen Zhao's senses. He used the huge lava body to deceive Chen Zhao's senses. On the other hand, the lava dragon was basically unkillable. He felt that he could just use the lava dragon to continuously consume Chen Zhao's power. That way, he would be invincible. Chen Zhao sneered. You still want to run now? Chen Zhao's power of the universe seeped into the lava. They caught Haber Timur Haber. Then, everyone saw Haber Timur Haber's huge body being dragged out of the lava. Haber Timur was astonished. The human before him was so strong that he didn't seem human. It was a completely unreasonable kind of power. Haber Timur Haber struggled to break free from the bindings. He used his strongest dragon's might to shatter the power that bound him. Chen Zhao also let go of the restraints. Trying to completely restrain an enemy of the same level, with just the power of the small world, was indeed wishful thinking. Chen Zhao was stronger than Haber Timur Haber. While Haber Timur was weaker than Chen Zhao, he wasn't much weaker. At least, they were at the same level of power. Haber Timur lost more, because he wasn't familiar with his own power. It wasn't just that he wasn't familiar with the power of a great lord. Haber Timur's control and use of power was something that even a normal lord would find difficult to achieve. He had created the lava dragon with his power. It did look mighty and extraordinary, but it was just an empty shell. Even if Chen Zhao stood there and let the lava dragon hit him, he might not even break a layer of skin. Haber Timur's performance was basically at the level of a middle school student who had gotten a master's degree. When he walked out, he told people that he had a master's degree. In the end, he was as fierce as a tiger. He wasn't even at the level of a high school student. At this level, he could only fool Arthur Alberta Haber, who was also a middle school student. In front of Chen Zhao, he would be beaten into a pig's head. After breaking free, Haber Timur Haber immediately flapped his wings and flew away from Chen Zhao's small world. Immediately after, Haber Timur's body shook violently, and the scales on his body started to fall. When those scales fell, they turned into dragon beasts in midair. The big ones were dozens of meters long, and the small ones were only a dozen meters long. Some could soar in the sky, while others fell directly into the magma. In an instant, Haber Timur Haber had created an army of countless dragons. Even Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. This method was similar to Wuxia's magic arsenal. However, quantity was useless in front of Chen Zhao. In a normal battle between great lords, no one would use such a method. Even if Shifeng had an endless supply of troops, he wouldn't use them in a battle between great lords. No matter how many soldiers they had, they could not withstand a massacre by a great lord. But now Haber Timur Haber had used such a stupid method. Even more stupid was that the dragon army was made from Haber Timur Haber's flesh and blood. To put it bluntly, Haber Timur Haber had created them with his own flesh and blood. It was a spectacular scene. The sky was filled with dragons. Chen Zhao twisted his neck and glanced at Haber Timur Haber. I suddenly don't want to kill you anymore. Be my breeding pig, and I'll keep you alive. How about that? Human, you're dead. I'll definitely kill you. Such words were a great insult to anyone, not to mention Haber Timur Haber, who had already become arrogant. When the 100,000 black balls appeared in the surroundings, both friend and foe were dumbfounded. The densely packed black balls were no weaker than the dragon army, especially Haber Timur Haber. Especially Haber Timur Haber. He had already experienced the power of those little black balls. Now that the countless black balls had appeared, he had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. In an instant, all the black balls shot out. The battlefield became a slaughterhouse. The black balls would die with one knock, or become crippled with one touch. How could he fight? At that moment, Haber Timur Haber also felt that his move was stupid. The dragon army couldn't even attack Chen Zhao. They couldn't even get close to Chen Zhao's small world. The magma lake churned, setting off terrifying waves. However, this attack wasn't enough to kill Haber Timur Haber. Primordial Regression Technique Level 2. Chen Zhao stomped on the ground. The ground he stepped on cracked instantly. Chen Zhao shot out like a fleeting shadow. In a thousandth of a second, Chen Zhao had pierced through Haber Timur Haber's abdomen and shot out from his back. At the same time, a dragon ball appeared in his hand. Haber Timur Haber was still in a daze. The result was already out. He turned back to look at Chen Zhao and his dragon ball. He reached out with his claws, trying to grab Chen Zhao. He wanted to take back his Dragon Ball. However, his body continued to fall. At this moment, everyone was silent. The insufferably arrogant Haber Timur Haber had finally been defeated. Suddenly, Chen Zhao grabbed Haber Timur Haber, who was about to fall into the lava lake. The body of the Dragon King was a good thing. How could Chen Zhao let go of Haber Timur's body? But at that moment, an unfamiliar yet powerful aura appeared without warning. Chen Zhao immediately felt that Haber Timur's body was being pulled by another force. Chen Zhao saw a shadow appear in front of him. He was 100 meters away from Chen Zhao. At the same time, one of his hands was grabbing at Haber's body. Although the shadow's aura was very faint, Chen Zhao could still vaguely feel it. Another giant dragon. And a Dragon King too. Father! Arthur Alberta Haber exclaimed. Arthur Alberta Haber didn't expect his father to come as well. Or rather, he had always been here. You want to steal my spoils of war? Or do you want to be my spoils of war too? Human, he's my child. The Dragon King's tone was somewhat angry. I don't care whose son he is. I only know that he's my spoils of war. Do you want humans to start a war with dragons? Do you? Chen Zhao wouldn't be threatened. He was just a nobody among humans. But the other was the leader of the dragons, so he could say whatever he wanted. Would the other dare? Jiutian Divine Emperor. Chapter 2646. Of course, the Dragon King didn't want to start a war. The dragons didn't have the advantage in the first place. Now, such a monster had appeared among the humans. Even he wasn't sure if he could defeat Chen Zhao. So if a war really started, then the dragons might really be wiped out. Maintaining the current situation was beneficial to both the dragons and humans. Threats were fine, but it was impossible to start a real war. For beings of their level, any threat was meaningless, unless he could truly be free from all attachments. The Dragon King stared at Chen Zhao. He seemed to be trying to force Chen Zhao with his eyes. Unfortunately, he was the one who compromised in the end. Although he was very unhappy that his child's body was taken as a trophy. But as the leader of the dragons, he couldn't be stubborn to the end. Of course, in the end, it was still because he wasn't strong enough. Strength was the most important factor in judging each other. If he was strong enough, it would be nice even if the other's words were bullshit. If he wasn't strong enough, then compromise was the only choice. For example, the situation the Dragon King was facing now. The Dragon King glanced at Arthur Alberta Haber and said, "Come back with me." The Dragon King was really afraid that Chen Zhao would kill his last son too, if he was too careless. Arthur Alberta Haber glanced at various marks behind him. He pursed his lips but didn't say anything in the end. The Dragon King didn't care if Arthur Alberta Haber was willing or not. He waved his hand, and an unpredictable chain shot out from his hand. It wrapped around Arthur Alberta Haber's neck, and then pulled hard. Arthur Alberta Haber's body also followed into nothingness. Chen Zhao didn't stop Arthur Alberta Haber from leaving. After all, he could tell friend from foe. Then the Dragon King and Arthur Alberta Haber disappeared before Chen Zhao's eyes. Chen Zhao didn't know how they left. But thinking about it, a dragon leader who had been a leader for thousands of years must have a lot of tricks up his sleeve. At least he wasn't a dabbler like Haber Timur Haber. Chen Zhao glanced at Haber Timur's huge corpse. With a wave of his hand, he put Haber's corpse away. Then he looked at Refra and the others. "I'll send you out." Everyone felt their bodies lighten, and then they floated up. At first it was quite novel. But then the feeling didn't feel good. Chen Zhao would never consider the feelings of the passengers. So when Chen Zhao sped up, they felt quite uncomfortable. The powerful air pressure directly squeezed and deformed the skin on their faces. Moreover, Chen Zhao had created an even bigger hole in it. He returned to the surface in the most barbaric way possible. When everyone returned to the ground again, everyone had a surreal feeling. Especially Jane Fankel. She did not expect the Asian she had interacted with before. He actually had such a terrifying side to him. She had originally thought that Haber Timur Haber was the most terrifying existence. But when Chen Zhao appeared, Haber Timur Haber was like a child before Chen Zhao. He was beaten up and humiliated. Haber Timur Haber seemed really weak. But everyone knew that Haber Timur Haber was very powerful. so powerful that it made people's hair stand on end. However, Chen Zhao's power was dominating. He was unreasonably strong. Jane Fankel thought of her father and brother. They had even provoked Chen Zhao before. If they died now, Chen Zhao would probably kill them with a slap. Chen Zhao looked at Refra and took the round ball from her hands. After you're done with your personal matters, hurry back. I still have many things to do. Portia can't handle them all by herself. Got it, boss. Then I'll go back first. With that, Chen Zhao disappeared into the night sky. Everyone heaved a long sigh of relief, as if they had just woken up from a dream. Even Varian had mixed feelings at the moment. Chen Zhao looked easygoing, but she felt that he was like a volcano. He was a human who dared to go against the Dragon King. He was far more dangerous than any of the giant dragons. The next day, Refra and Portia came to work together. Chen Zhao was a bit surprised that Refra came back so early. Refra, you didn't rush back overnight, right? Chen Zhao asked. There's a flight to L.A., so I came back on the way. I thought you needed a day or two off. It's a festival in your hometown, Refra said. Okay, Chen Zhao said. I have a lot of things to do at home today. I need to prepare clothes for the kids. In some aspects, Chen Zhao was more traditional. Even though he was in a foreign country, he still followed Chinese traditions. He had been abroad for more than 2 years, and 3 Chinese New Years. He didn't miss any of them, because of other reasons. He didn't buy firecrackers that could go off in the tens of thousands, but he did get some that could go off in the thousands. Also, no one would care if he set them off in his own territory. Kids loved to set off firecrackers. Even foreign kids were no exception. This was because firecrackers could stimulate their senses and vision. Although they were a bit scared, the boys still gathered their courage to light the firecrackers. Chen Zhao even gave them some firecrackers for fun. Since it was New Year's Eve, the more lively the better. Chen Zhao prepared a lot of food and beer in the yard. Drinking beer in February was definitely not bad. Chen Zhao didn't want to have a reunion dinner like in China. He wanted to have a reunion dinner, but he wanted a more relaxing way. The kids were playing with firecrackers. When they were tired, thirsty, or hungry, they would come over to eat something. Then they would continue playing. Then Clive, Ampa and their kids arrived. Chen Zhao had invited the whole family. He had also invited Murphy, Rebecca, Bant, Mary and Ken. He had invited all the people in town who were close to him. Other than preparing red packets for his kids, he also prepared red packets for Clive and Ampa's kids. There wasn't much money inside, just 2 $20 bills. Too much wasn't suitable. Around $40. That was around $200 in China. Less than $300. Clive and Ampa roughly knew Chinese customs, so they didn't let their kids reject Chen Zhao's red packets. Then everyone sat together and chatted. The men went in groups and the women went in groups. This lasted from the afternoon until it was almost midnight. Then everyone left one by one. Chen Zhao also let Refra and Portia go back after a busy day. Chapter 2647. Before and after the new year were 2 completely different feelings. Before the new year, he felt like he had a lot of things to do. But after the new year, he felt like everything had disappeared. He just lay there doing nothing every day. Chen Zhao believed that he wasn't the only one who felt this way. It seemed like every Chinese had the same feeling. Of course, Chen Zhao would enter the river diagram to cultivate every day for different lengths of time. As the small world continued to be refined, Chen Zhao felt that it had gone through a complete transformation. The growth in power level was nothing now. Chen Zhao was now more than 10 times stronger than before he started cultivating the small world. This kind of improvement couldn't make Chen Zhao happy anymore. What really excited him was that the small world seemed to be growing in a certain direction. But that feeling couldn't be described with words. It was that kind of conjecture and specious feeling. This kind of growth didn't come from an instant epiphany. It had to be accumulated over a long period of time. Moreover, it couldn't be done in a day or two. To put it bluntly, even after Bifla, Zhang Tianyi, and the 23rd Blood Mary activated their small worlds, they might not have enough time to refine them. This slow speed made Chen Zhao speechless. Even in the river diagram, Chen Zhao still felt that the speed was 1,000 times faster. Compared to the continuous increase in his combat power, Chen Zhao cared more about the growth of the small world. In the past, Chen Zhao had never actively cultivated. Most of the time, he just passively increased his power. But now, Chen Zhao was looking forward to the growth and changes of the small world. Chen Zhao had a feeling that if the small world improved, there would be a very special change. Hey Zhang, what's up? Chen Zhao was meditating by the lake when he received Zhang Tianyi's call. It was called meditation, but he was actually daydreaming. These days, Chen Zhao was really bored to death. Before the new year, Alex would call Chen Zhao many times a day. But recently, there hadn't been a single call. Chen Zhao didn't know if Alex had picked the right time to make things difficult for him. When are you coming back? In a few days. You're not coming back earlier? Why would I go back earlier? I'm not going to make it through the Spring Festival. Actually, the Spring Festival traffic has eased a lot in the past 2 years. Huh. Chen Zhao did not believe it. It was a slogan from 20 years ago. The pressure of the Spring Festival had not decreased. Instead, it had increased year by year. This was a dividend brought about by the country's population, but at the same time, it also brought about a burden. Unless the various types of transportation in the country increased by 3 times, the pressure would still be the same. I said to wait for a few days. It's only a few days. Why are you in such a hurry? I just missed you. Bullshit. Chen Zhao answered the call and studied the sparkling lake. No one knew what he was thinking. You really don't plan to return to China soon? Why do you have to make life difficult for these few days? Isn't it just a few days? Won't it be over after you sleep? Get lost. How many days do you need to sleep? Anyway, I'm just going back to my country to have some fun and visit some scenic spots. You're urging me to go back, so you must have some hard work to do. Anyway, you better give up on this idea. I won't help you with any hard work. My Great Dragon Tiger Mountain is a national special tourist attraction. It's enough for you to play. Even if you want room service, I'll arrange it for you. You get lost too. You really don't plan to come back early? To tell you the truth, I've booked a plane. The flight is next Friday. I've already paid the deposit. If you help me pay the deposit, I'll go back early. How much? $2 million. Fuck off. Come back whenever you want. Zhang Tianyi hung up. Fuck off. You hang up as soon as we talk about money. So practical. Chen Zhao cursed and put the phone away. Because there were quite a lot of people returning this time. Chen Zhao's whole family was out. This was why Chen Zhao planned to book a private plane back. Plus, there were so many kids to take care of, so Vara and Portia had to come too. 2 days before the return, Chen Zhao got busy again. There were more than 20 suitcases of various sizes. Although they were only going out to play, they brought quite a lot of things. On the day of their return, Chen Zhao's family went to the airport in a grandiose manner. After boarding the connecting flight, the kids started to make a ruckus. To them, this place was like home. When the plane was about to take off, the stewardess calmed them down for a while. For the flight attendants of this flight, it was simply a flight to hell. When the stewardess was on a mission, the thing they were most afraid of was kids on the plane. However, there were only a few adults on this flight. The rest were all kids. However, they couldn't afford to offend these kids. After all, if their parents could charter the plane, it meant that their parents were rich. Just then, Chen Zhao received a call from Zhang Ting. Chen Zhao had already switched to the satellite phone, so he could use it even on the plane. Boss, are you on the plane? Yes, we're on the plane, Chen Zhao said. Okay, I'm only going back to play. No need to trouble you. Have a good new year. Boss, I've been cooped up at home for more than 10 days. I'm being urged to get married every day. Please pity me. Zhang Ting purposely sounded pitiful. Actually, it wasn't that she had to work. Even if she didn't want to stay at home, she could go anywhere. In fact, she had the awareness of an employee. Her boss was coming back to play. As his #1 trusted employee, if she didn't accompany him, she might be replaced. Okay. If you really want to come, then come. But I won't pay you during the holidays. Boss, doesn't that count as overtime? Then you should stay at home for the blind date. Chen Zhao joked with Zhang Ting for a while. After telling her the estimated arrival time of the flight, he hung up. Both Zhang Ting and Portia were Chen Zhao's employees, but their work attitudes were completely different. Portia only treated it as a job. She was Chen Zhao's employee. On the other hand, Zhang Ting had the awareness of becoming Chen Zhao's trusted employee. Under normal circumstances, there was no difference between the two. They were both doing their jobs within their scope. But there were differences. Simply speaking, anyone could do Portia's job. For example, Zephyr could even do it better. Zhang Ting was different. While she was doing her job, she could also help Chen Zhao complete tasks outside of her job. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't need Portia to change. At least within her job scope, it was enough for her to do her own job. Chapter 2648. Yo, you look so pretty today. Are you going out to receive a guest? Zhang Ting didn't turn around. From the tone, she knew it was her best friend and roommate Yi Ziqing. Yi Ziqing always called herself a demoness and was used to speaking sarcastically. Yi Ziqing was also a top student in Shuimu and was the technical director of a listed company. The two had a lot of common topics. They lived together in an upscale apartment. The rent for this apartment wasn't cheap. It was 56,000 a month, including property, utilities, heating, and other expenses. It added up to nearly 60,000 yuan. The two of them shared 30,000 a month. With such a high standard, it would be hard to maintain without a stable income. Yi Ziqing didn't even go home during the new year. Zhang Ting only went back a few days before and after the new year. My big boss is back in the country, Zhang Ting said. The big boss you said is rich enough to throw money at people? Yi Ziqing's eyes lit up and asked in surprise. Don't get any ideas. He has a family. He even has 2 children, Zhang Ting said. I'm not planning on seducing your big boss. I just want to see if he's interested in investing in any projects. I have a lot of good projects on hand, Yi Ziqing said. I'm just lacking rich people who have nowhere to spend their money. Yi Ziqing heard Zhang Ting mention her big boss before. During a trip abroad, this big boss spent millions of US dollars for her and his employees. He would send warmth to the company's employees every few days. In just a month, he had already sent out millions of US dollars. He closed his eyes to make decisions and casually mentioned an animation company that was worth hundreds of millions of yuan. Yi Ziqing had come into contact with many rich people. Even the top tycoons in the country had come into contact with a few. But she had never seen such a rich person. Are you going to the airport now? I'll go with you. No, you don't know him. Introduce him to me. We've been sisters for so many years. No, I feel like you're going to seduce my big boss. Think about it. Who paid for you back then when you didn't have money to pay rent? Think about it. When you were working overtime every day and night. Who was the one who sent you supper? Think about it. Who helped you vent your anger when you were played by a scumbag? Okay. I'll take you there. Okay? Yi Ziqing was complacent as if her scheme had succeeded. Zhang Ting was already used to Yi Ziqing's temper. If they didn't get along, they wouldn't have shared a room for so many years. Shanghai Airport. Shanghai Airport was even busier than Los Angeles International Airport. 2 years ago, Chen Zhao also boarded the plane at Magic City Airport when he left the country. More than 2 years had passed, but the Shanghai airport had not changed much. Chen Zhao and his family walked out of the arrival gate. No wonder I've never heard of you in China, the middle-aged man said. Then you have to follow some local rules. I only came into contact with the spiritual world overseas, so I don't really know the local rules. I see. How about we find a place to sit? The middle-aged man asked. Sure, wait a moment. I'll call them back. Chen Zhao nodded. At the same time, he sent a signal to his children, telling them all to come over. The middle-aged man looked at the foreign children surrounding Chen Zhao. You're not a nanny overseas, right? They lost their parents, so I adopted them, Chen Zhao said casually. Let's go. There's a roadside restaurant. Let's sit there. Lika seemed to notice something and asked in a low voice. Old Joe, what's wrong with you? That kid didn't do anything to you. Why are you acting like a different person all of a sudden? Just now when he took my True Yang talisman, it suddenly combusted. Didn't you see it? I saw it. Your true yang talisman was refined by you using yang fire. It contains a trace of true yang fire force. As you said, that kid's yang qi is heavy. The true yang fire force did not enter his body. It was directly released from the talisman. Do you remember the big incident in Wuxia 20 years ago? Yes, what about it? My master and I also participated in that incident, Zhou said. We were lucky enough to meet Celestial Master Zhang of Dragon Tiger Mountain. At the time, he had just experienced a demon-slaying battle. It's said that Celestial Master Zhang killed thousands of demons alone. But Celestial Master Zhang was still in high spirits. When he saw my master, he even came over to say hello. Only then did I know that my master and Celestial Master Zhang were old friends. Celestial Master Zhang even asked my master for a few true yang talismans, saying that he needed to disperse some of the evil blood qi on his body. What does that have to do with that kid? Li Ku asked, confused. It's said that after killing demons, there will be evil blood qi left on one's body. It will either dissipate gradually with time, or be burned by true yang fire. When Celestial Master Zhang asked for the true yang talisman, it also combusted on its own. Zhou said in a low voice. Zhou said in a low voice. At that time, Celestial Master Zhang also said that he killed too many demons in those days, and his body was actually contaminated with such a heavy blood aura that he didn't even need to activate the true yang talisman, and it actually ignited. It's possible that the kid had just killed some demons and ghosts. After all, he is also a cultivator. It's not surprising that he killed a few demons, right? Li Ku said with slight hesitation. In that big incident, my master gave a lot of true yang talismans. Basically, the stock that he had stored for decades was used up in that big incident. If others want to get true yang talismans, they all need to activate them. Only Celestial Master Zhang doesn't need to activate them, Zhou said. Zhou said. At that time, my master said that other people only have a little bit of evil blood qi. But Celestial Master Zhang's evil blood qi can directly scare away the most ferocious evil spirits and evil spirits. You mean, the evil blood qi on that kid surnamed Chun is comparable to that of Celestial Master Zhang? Probably even more, Zhou said. At the same time, he secretly glanced at Chen Zhao, who was far behind them. All in all, that kid isn't the kind person we thought he was. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we have to be careful. Li Ku had been in business for many years, and was also a smart person. He had basically seen all kinds of people. He even had contact with demons. He also secretly looked back at Chen Zhao. I can't tell what this brat is capable of. Behind them, Chen Zhao and Wang Hai were chatting happily. Anyway, they were all bragging. Wang Hai was also very supportive. In his opinion, Chen Zhao was just bragging. How could he be familiar with a Hollywood director? It was a piece of cake for him to be the main character in a Hollywood movie. Wang Hai's face was full of envy and joy. He kept saying that he wanted to rely on Chen Zhao and suck up to him. Regardless of what he was thinking, at least his expression and tone were very good. I invested in that kidnapping. To be honest, if you don't have any connections, you can't invest in Hollywood movies even if you have the money. Brother Chen, you're the best. When can you introduce director Steven to me? He's not free. He's shooting a new movie right now. It'll probably be released next year. Do you know what the limit of this credit card is? How much? I don't know either. Anyway, the bank said that there's no limit. Chen Zhao really enjoyed this situation. He even felt like he was bragging. But the other party kept praising him, and didn't want to expose his bragging at all. This was the benefit of talking to adults. They were all fake. When everyone returned to Chen Zhao's side, they were all happy. It seemed that they had gained a lot this time. Li Ku patted his gourd. Chen, what do you think of my gourd? There are more than 100 spiritual Buddhas in it. Li Ku's methods were extraordinary. But Zhou Nan and Wang Hai weren't weak either. Wang Hai took out a blank scroll and threw the spiritual Buddhas with runes imprinted on them onto the scroll. Then, they turned into pictures on the scroll. There were more than 100 spiritual Buddhas of different shapes and sizes. Zhou Nan condensed the spiritual Buddhas with the black water into a small black ball and stuffed it into his pocket. He didn't make a sound, But Chen Zhao saw that he was the one who had gained the most. I'm impressed, Chen Zhao replied, chuckling. Chen, don't be discouraged. I'll give you a few later. Wang Hai patted Chen Zhao's shoulder, treating him like his little brother. Brother Wang, these things aren't cheap on the market, right? You're my brother. Why bother? Actually, it's not impossible to find them on the market. It's just that there aren't many of them. One spiritual Buddha costs around 10 or 20,000 yuan. Chapter 2653. Chen Zhao more or less understood what Wang Hai meant. To put it bluntly, they'd caught so many spiritual Buddhas to exchange for cash. Wang Hai thought that Chen Zhao was rich, but he might not be as rich as he claimed. But he was definitely rich. He wanted to get some money from Chen Zhao directly. Li Ku and Zhou Yinan glanced at Wang Hai. Zhou Yinan opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. But Li Ku pulled Zhou Yinan subtly. He didn't let him speak. Wang Hai's price was too high. On the market, a spiritual Buddha would sell for 10,000 yuan at most. Wang Hai clearly knew that Chen Zhao didn't understand the market. Chen Zhao had already noticed Li Ku and Zhou Yinan's actions. But he didn't plan on turning against Wang Hai. Then give me 10. I still don't know how to use them. Give me an account, and I'll transfer 200,000 to you. Wang Hai was instantly overjoyed. He'd achieved his goal. But Wang Hai didn't know that Chen Zhao's impression of Wang Hai had decreased. You guys wait here. I'll go scout ahead, Wang Hai said. Wang Hai said, those Lingsha probably ran out from the ancient tomb. Maybe we can meet them up ahead. Li Ku, Zhou Yinan, and Chen Zhao stayed where they were. Brother Chen, Li Ku hesitated for a while, wondering if he should remind Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao found a rock and sat down. Smiling, he said, are the spiritual Buddhas that Brother Wang sold me too expensive? They're a bit expensive, but Wang Hai doesn't have any bad intentions. He's just greedy. No, it's not easy for everyone. Ha! Chen Zhao waved his hand, smiling. Brother Chen, what cultivation method do you practice? Li Ku asked. What I practice is a Taoist technique, but the path I take is of the strengthening system. How's your cultivation? Li Ku didn't hide his probing anymore. It should be okay, Chen Zhao said casually. You guys know that I spend most of my time abroad. The level of the foreign spiritual world is SOSO. There are experts, but not many of them. With my cultivation, I don't have many opponents overseas. Then there should be many demons and ghosts abroad, right? How's his strength? Of course there are strong and weak people, but I'm an enhancer. To put it bluntly, I'm just fighting those things head on. The reason I'm still alive is because I'm stronger and faster than them. Hee, that's true. Li Ku nodded with a smile. Chen Zhao's answer was clearly perfunctory. He had completely changed his question. You've killed many demons abroad, right? Yes, quite a few. Chen Zhao nodded. That evil blood chi of yours can't be explained with just a few. Zhou Yinan abruptly interrupted. I just need to join a few more scarlet missions, and kill a few more monsters, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Zhou Yinan was stunned. Of course he knew about the scarlet mission. He even looked up the scarlet missions, hoping that he might be lucky enough to find one that was easier to complete. After a few days of research, he realized that none of the scarlet missions were easy. Each scarlet mission was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Many of them were exterminating demon lairs in certain places. Zhou Yinan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He completely believed Chen Zhao. As for Chen Zhao's cultivation, it shouldn't be low, but he definitely wasn't at Zhang Tianyi's level. So it could only be that he had participated in many scarlet missions. If he participated in enough scarlet missions, and killed a few more monsters each time, it wouldn't be impossible to explain his evil blood chi. Zhou Yinan heaved a sigh of relief. Now that he thought about it, it made more sense. A while later, Wang Hai came back. Wang Hai, how's it going up ahead? There seems to be another group of people here tonight. Wang Hai frowned. When I went over, they noticed me too, but they didn't attack. I think they're also here for the Han King's tomb. More people. They look like people from Taoism. Which sect? Zhou Yinan asked sensitively. Zhou Yinan was a disciple of the Taihang Divination 5 Elements sect, which was also a Taoist sect. However, they only cultivated Taoist spells and not Taoist scriptures. So they could only be considered a Taoist sect, not a Taoist sect. In reality, Taoism and Taoism were two completely different concepts in Wuxia's current spiritual world. As for Taoism, it could be a Taoism, but a Taoism would forever be a Taoism. For example, Mount Longhu was a Taoist holy land, and also a Taoist holy land. I'm afraid he's a Taoist priest from Mao Mountain. Mao Mountain? Li Ku and Zhou Nan frowned. The Mao Mountain sect was one of the top Taoist sects in the Wuxia spirit world. Mao Mountain was also a Taoist holy land. However, Mao Mountain's Taoist sects and Taoist schools were separate. Mao Mountain also had a celestial master Zhang. However, this celestial master Zhang was not that celestial master Zhang. Mao Mountain's celestial master Zhang's real name was Zhang Ding, also known as Taoist Zhang. In addition to distinguishing Zhang Tianyi, it was also because the Maoshan sect had once been conferred a title by the imperial court during the Ming dynasty. The sect leader was conferred the title of the Great Light True Art Taoist of Cheongtian. The title of Tao Lord had been passed down to this day. Although this Tao Lord could be considered one of the most supreme figures of the otherworld, he was still a Tao Lord. But compared to Celestial Master Zhang of Longhu Mountain's Celestial Master sect, he was still a far cry. The spirit world only knew of Celestial Master Zhang, not Daojun Zhang. Of course, it would be an exaggeration to say that no one knew of him at all. However, Zhang Ding was far inferior to Zhang Tianyi in both cultivation and fame. That was true. Zhang Ding was one of the leading figures of the Wuxia otherworld, and there were many others who were on the same level as him.